Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our virtual chat program. I'm very excited to see everyone here. My name is Gulshan, and I will be moderating today's program. And I'm very excited because we have a wonderful speaker today. Her name is Victoria Sasinka. Hi, Victoria.
Hello, nice to be here.
Great to have you as a speaker to our program. So Victoria is a high school student attending IMG Academy, which is a sports boarding school in Bradenton, Florida. And Victoria plays tennis professionally, and she will be talking about sports in the United States to us today. And we'll have a chance to ask her questions in real time. Victoria is currently in Almaty for the summer, visiting her family, and also interning at the US consulate in Almaty. In her free time, Victoria likes to play the piano, and she also does other types of sports, which we will probably hear about a little bit later. Victoria, thanks so much. It's great to have you. And I want to remind everyone that we're live on our Facebook and our YouTube. So if you have questions, and I'm sure you will, please put them here below this video, and Victoria will answer them right after her presentation. All right. Thanks, Victoria. Over to you.
Thank you. Hello, as Gulshan introduced, I'm Victoria Sasinka. I'll be talking to you about sports in the US. But first, I'll tell you a little bit about myself and how I got to be into sport. First, I was born in the US, but my family is from the Czech Republic traditionally. So, all my family's in the Czech Republic. I learned how to speak Czech and English at the same time. And because of my mom and dad's work, we've traveled a lot. So I've lived in South Africa for 4 years, Zimbabwe for 5, and then eventually moved to Kazakhstan. And now I'm back in the US for the first time. So, as many of you that want to go to the US for college or university or work purposes, it was all new to me. So, I've got a kind of unique perspective on everything. Um, I started playing tennis when I was 5 in South Africa. And I also played other sports. South African schools have a thing where all sports are mandatory. So even if you don't want to, you have to be there, you have to support, and you have to play the sport. So I played like hockey, netball, swimming, but eventually tennis just stuck with me. And so when we moved to Zimbabwe, I just kept going with tennis. And because in Africa, like the resources aren't exactly great, but you have a court, that's all you need, balls, a good coach, good community, and a gym, and that's all I needed. And sadly, there wasn't many tournaments in Zimbabwe, so it forced me to travel a lot. So since I was 13, I've been traveling either like with my coach or just alone. I've been going for tournaments around Africa there. My first tournament was in Kenya. I stayed there for maybe 2 or 3 weeks at a time, and then I came back. I played some tournaments in South Africa, Botswana, and around. And when I moved to Kazakhstan, the same thing applied, except here the level is a bit higher, so there's many tournaments in Kazakhstan. So I traveled many of the cities like Aktobe, Usk-Kamenogorsk, all of them, and I also played in Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan. There's some tournaments. Um, so I've been around everywhere. So tennis has given me the opportunity to travel a lot as well. And one of the reasons I chose to go to IMG was because during COVID, everything was shut down here in Kazakhstan, and IMG didn't close down. They kept the campus open, but only to the students there, so everything was safe, COVID was minimal, and I had all the facilities. As you can see on the pictures, there's the new gym, the courts, they have many other sports, so I was in an environment with students, and I had friends everywhere, and it was all new as well, but at the same time, I had everything I was used to back home, except my family, which was a new adjustment. So many the biggest thing in the US is probably college sports. The NCAA is an organization that regulates all student athletic relates anything, and all the rules, regulations, and all the requirements you must have to be a college athlete. So they have all the rules, like you have to like not take any money. More like for tennis, it is you can't take more than $10,000. You have to prove your amateurism, as they put it. Pretend like making sure that you're not pro, you're not taking sponsorships from anybody for money, so that you can get scholarships. Because once you cross that boundary, you're not eligible for college sports anymore. But mainly, there's different divisions. Usually, there's Division 1, 2, and 3. The first two divisions, they offer scholarships, full scholarships. Division 1 sports, at least for tennis, I can speak to tennis because I'm actually going through the recruiting process myself right now. And in tennis, the first Division 1 gives you full scholarship. They have top 8 to offer. So if you're one of the top 8 in the lineup, you get a full ride, everything included. In a Division 2 or 2 school, you can get a sports scholarship as well, but you can also combine it with an academic one. For Division 3, they don't offer sports scholarships anymore, but they still offer academic scholarships. So the biggest thing is to keep your grades up and stay on top of your schoolwork. If your school is elite, then you have a chance of getting into any school you want. Um, Colleges compete against each other. That's another good thing about the NCAA. They create a very competitive environment. As you can see on the map, there's different conferences. So every college you're in, depending on the region you're in, you're going to play within your conference in order to qualify for the NCAA championships that happen. This is for every sport. Like, for example, in tennis, they have the NCAA tournament. You have to win it in your conference, and that's means you're automatically in it. That's the first 32 spots, and the rest you have to fight for the other spots depending on how you did in the season, depending on your ranking in the region. For basketball, it's even bigger because it's everybody's connected into it. They call it March Madness. It happens every spring, and it doesn't really matter what age you are. You can be way out of the college age range, you can be younger, and this ties into how American families are invested from every moment. They're invested in the college experience because they it gives you a chance to be interactive with your community. And there's not only like the popular college sports you could think of, like tennis, rugby, football. There's like any sports, there's gymnastics, there's the ones you don't really see. There's a space for everybody. So some of the popular sports in America would be American football, baseball, basketball, ice hockey, soccer, tennis, lacrosse, and golf. But there's other sports they play as well. American football being the most spectator viewed sport, and baseball having traditional roots in the US. It's been going on, both of them, since the 1800s. They just made up the rules and went with it. American football was a combination of rugby and soccer, and at first they just played with those rules, and then it evolved into the sport it is today. Basketball grew very much because of how many people support it, how many people are invested. It became an iconic sport in the US. So did many others, like the US tennis has grown like a lot. Lacrosse, golf, everything is there, and it's on the rise. Some of the biggest sporting events, it's not necessarily all professional events because, as I said earlier, in the US, college events are just as important. So, like March Madness is one of the most important ones as well. But speaking of professional events, some of the biggest in each sport would be the Super Bowl. They have many, like the best singers. Like, I don't know if you've heard this year, the 2022 Super Bowl it's usually in March, and they bring the best, most popular artists to perform at the halftime show, and the two best teams play the final. Everybody's invested. Like, I can say that I was watching it at the school, all the students there together, we were watching it on TV, everybody's super excited. It just brings a lot of excitement just saying the name. Then you have the NBA All-Star Game and the Final Four. The Final Four is also happening right now. If you're following, there's a series you have to play, and it's one of the biggest tournaments for basketball. You have the World Series for baseball, that's one of the biggest tournaments. Then the Masters Golf Tournament, and the US Open, of course. The US Open would be a dream for me as well to eventually play there one day, but as you can see, there's many events that aren't just in the US, but they also attract people from abroad to play in these tournaments. So culturally, sport is integrated in almost every US family. It brings families together. Many households in the US, are hardworking families, they're working and possibly don't have much time to hang out or be with their families, but playing a sport, going for a run, just pitching some balls, playing some soccer in the park, it all brings the family together. You can be running a marathon together, anything, but it makes that bond, that family bond. Also, historically in the United States, it has been one of the greatest integrators of social classes, groups, and individuals, because when you're playing a sport, it doesn't really matter what race, what social background you have, whether you're into the sport or not, whether you're athletic or if you just want to have fun. You're just there to have fun and work together, and it breaks all boundaries, and it has been seen like progressively in all the sports. Um, Character development is also key. So sports develop character that you couldn't in the classroom, for example, confidence, leadership skills. All these skills are developed over time, and with sports, you learn it for yourself. You have to stand up for yourself. You have to communicate in a team. You have to work together. And all these skills are beneficial to sport, as well as just being outside and having a hobby. Lately, we have the highest depression rates, and in the US, it's becoming a great problem, as well as worldwide. But um, if you have a hobby or have something to do and something to keep you busy, there's less chance that you'll fall into depression or something like that. Like, for example, for me, I have been doing sports all my life. It's been taking up all my time. So I go to school, go home, quickly change, go to practice, come home, do more homework. It doesn't really give you any time to be bored or have negative thoughts with yourself. So it always keeps you busy, and I think that's an important thing to keep going and pushing yourself towards something you enjoy, have a passion. So sports usually come at a cost. They're expensive, not just in the US, but worldwide. If you get into a sport competitively, it's likely you're going to be putting more money into it. But in the US, sports is a great way to minimize financial issues, like going to the university, studying. You can get into any school. You can get into any school you like through education, and you can get scholarships for the university, and it cuts down wages. So, yeah. Um, Many states in the US have public facilities that can also cut down costs. So, basically, you don't have to have this facility. You have a park to go to, you have tennis courts. Like in Georgia, where I'm from, there's tennis courts almost in every neighborhood, so you can just take your rackets, go there with a basket with your family, and play. So it's all up to you. There's workout facilities publicly, and it's all up to your motivation and competitiveness to get what you want. Public and private schools are heavily invested in sports as well. So any school you would go to in the US would be there to promote sports teams. They have varsity teams for volleyball, track, football, soccer, all these sports. They try to develop their students as much as possible, and this would be without extra costs. But the main thing for many US citizens is to go play a sport and focus on it so that they can get into a university and make it easy, because the US is special in the sense that not anywhere else you don't have the built-in structure of the college system where you can get full scholarships for all-inclusive sports equipment, training, everything, and your education on top of that. Like if you go into Europe or then you're just there for school, and you don't have the chance to get a scholarship for a sport as necessarily as you can in the US. So people that go to universities, they usually struggle to pay back loans, and it takes them years to pay it back. But if you go there through sports, admissions are already easier because you're already 1 foot in. If you're committed with the coach that you're dealing with, then you're halfway in, and then you just have to be really working on your academics. Your academics are key to get there. Like for example, my friend from Zimbabwe, he was he didn't have money. He didn't necessarily have the equipment. Like we had to support each other, but because he was hardworking and really wanted it, he applied to the US, got into a school and on a scholarship, and he was pupil of the year, and he really succeeded in every field there, sportsman of the year, as well as in his academics. So in the end, it's all about how much you want it and how much you're willing to put into it. Yeah. Um,
Thanks, Victoria. Is there anything else you would like to talk about, or do you want us to move to questions?
you can ask me questions. That'd be great.
Yeah, we have a lot of people joining us actually, and our first question is from Khalil Khatamov. He's asking, how did you get started playing tennis? And badminton, I don't know if you mentioned that, but do you also play badminton?
I just for fun, but tennis is
Uh-huh.
my sport, just to say it like that. Well, I started playing in South Africa, as I said before. I didn't know I was going to specify in tennis yet, but there was a university right next to my school, and my parents just put me there. I'd have an hour of tennis, then I'd go for an hour of swimming, and then I'd go home, do my schoolwork, and I'd just keep doing that. And then I'd play some tournaments, and I really liked the sport. And when we moved away to Zimbabwe, there was more tennis and more swimming, and I was just eventually there wasn't time for the other sports, so I just stayed with tennis and continued to improve and got to the point where I am now.
Thank you. Okay, let's move to the next one. All right, just a sec. Aziz Bekaminov is asking, is Ultimate Frisbee famous in the USA?
Yes, I've definitely heard of it. I think it's one of the games that you play uh, in your free time, as well as I think it's a big sport. It is a big sport there. I don't personally know too much about it, but I've played it before with some friends in school, and yeah, it's a thing there.
Okay, thank you. And Aziz Bek is asking, What if I don't have any achievements in sports? Can I still get a full scholarship?
It's specific to every school. So every school you apply to, it will depend on your situation. There's financial aid. There's if you go through sports, then you could get a partial scholarship there, depending on which coach you communicate with, and then you can go for the academic scholarship. So if you have great results in school, like good on the SAT, you did great in all your courses and exams, like full marks, then you can definitely get I don't know if a full scholarship, but you can definitely get more scholarship for academics.
Yeah, and getting full scholarship is like actually you have to be super super good at everything, right? So it's not
Yes.
a goal probably. Yeah. All right. Sanjar Mahmudov is asking, who is your idol in tennis? Do you have any role models or um, your
For me,
stars
it's
in tennis?
it's not specifically one person. I follow all of them, and I like to see like how they develop their game over the time, and I just pick certain aspects from each one. So if I like, let's say, Federer's footwork, then I'll look at him for that. Then if I like Djokovic's backhand, then I'll look at that. If I like this if I like Ash Barty's personality, I'll take some of her characteristics, but I don't really specify in like one idol.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Asadbek Ahmadjanov is asking, what was your dream job when you were a child?
Well, I've always wanted to be a professional tennis player and
Hmm.
eventually like get to a grand slam and play and win possibly one some of it. But yeah, so the goal for me is to go to college first and afterwards try to go professional full time.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. Uh, while we're waiting for some questions from our audience, I have a question. If you were not playing tennis, what would be the sport that you would like to do, like your second favorite sport?
Um, I think I'd probably do like either swimming or running because I run a lot, like long distances, and I used to do some triathlons, like half triathlons, half biathlons. So yeah, I really like that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And if someone here would like to start doing sports or tennis specifically, what were your tips for people who just want to start doing sports? Like anything that we
Um,
need to do or follow?
Well, first, you just have to have fun with it. You have to have a passion for it, enjoy it. It shouldn't be something you force. It should be something you go and you enjoy doing. So, like with me, every time I go play tennis, I'm there because I want to improve myself. I want to get better, and it's my passion dream. So, even if I practice like from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., which I've done throughout my life a lot because sometimes my school, like now at IMG, it's great because I have school in the morning and practices in the afternoon. But before, I had school all day starting from 7:30 till 3:30, so I had to do it before and then after, and that would mean waking up early, going to
Mm-hmm.
sleep late because of homework school. So it's all about how much you want it. So if you do want to improve, if you do want to start a sport, then go for it. There's nothing stopping you.
Mm-hmm. That's a great advice. Thanks, Victoria. Question from Ruslan. Is American football in the US as popular as it is shown in the movies?
Definitely. I think that's one thing they've depicted very accurately. Um, American football is very popular, whether it is just playing in the backyard with like younger brother or like in the neighborhood or professionally. Like I know at IMG there's a lot of football games and a lot of people come and watch it, and it's very hype. And um,
Mhm.
it's not just professionals they watch, but American football in college is just as popular, and they'd be streaming that on television as well as professional players. So most of the time, when there isn't a pro tournament, you'll be seeing all the colleges playing against each other because everybody has their favorite team they back, everybody is invested in somebody at that point. So yeah, it's very connected.
Have you played American football with, let's say, with your friends or family?
I've tried sometimes just with like some friends. It's
Hmm.
fun.
That's interesting. Okay, question from Asadbek Ahmadjanov. If you have a chance to study for your master's degree, which university would be suitable for you?
Right now, I'm going through the recruiting process, as they call it. So I just I've been emailing a lot of different colleges, a lot of different coaches. I've been talking with them, and from my view, right now, my top three options, I'd be trying to get into Boston University, Tulane, or Wisconsin. But there's a lot more universities out there, and it's not just one way to go. There's a spot for everybody. So I'm not sure where I'll go yet, but I hope I get into one of those.
Hmm. All right, thank you. Um, Victoria, if you don't want to answer this question, it's fine, but it's just interesting. What do you see yourself in, let's say, 10 years? So you're applying for university now. Are there any plans that you want to, anything you want to achieve in 10 years?
Well, I've definitely thought a lot about like what career path I've wanted to go to, and it hasn't really been clear to me like what I want to study yet. So that's another thing I've been debating on as well. But I know that tennis will always be a part of it, my plan, regardless of what I do. So the main goal is always to try and go pro, but like if that doesn't work out, then I'd still like to pursue my education. And I was thinking either something just like this in like learning public affairs or international relations, since I speak a lot of languages and have a lot of experience traveling the world and know different cultures, um, or something more medical, but I'd always want to travel a lot and see the world. That's always been something I like to do. Never stay too long in one spot.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Next question from IC Monica. Which tennis player is your favorite? Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, or Novak Djokovic?
Probably Rafa Nadal, just because he's
Mhm.
such a nice character on the court. Watching him is always entertaining.
Can you tell us, like, for those who are not in watching tournaments, what is like, how does he express himself?
Rafa Nadal, he just won the French Open for the, I think, 14th time maybe. So he's been there for a long time. He's been there since I was born, basically, already playing pro. And he's a very energetic character, moves to every ball, just runs for everything, and just hits incredible shots. It's just insane.
Mhm. All right, thank you. Asadbek Ahmadjanov is asking if you had a chance to come to Uzbekistan, would it be in future and why?
Um, um, Probably for a tournament. If I did go to Uzbekistan, I know there's always some ITFs going on. ITFs is the International Tennis Federation for juniors. So this is my last year playing juniors because I'll be 18 soon, and that's the cutoff. But after there's WTA, they have a lot of those as well. They have some 15,000s, and there's just different tournaments. But I'd definitely go there for tournaments. I've had the opportunity to go there, but it just didn't work out with my schedule. But yeah, definitely go there.
Mhm. And talking about traveling somewhere for your tournament, what would be your number one destination where you want to go for like to compete in tennis? Which country?
I'm not sure. It doesn't really matter for the competition where you are, but my plans right now are just playing. There's a tournament here next week, and then I'm going to the Czech Republic to play some tournaments. And it doesn't really matter where you go, but possibly somewhere around Europe.
Hmm. Okay, thank you. Shahnoza Monova is asking, what sports for women would you recommend to make a project on and receive funding for? Um, Shahnoz, okay, if you have the
So,
answer. Yeah.
um, women's sports are definitely growing. They're trying to make equal pay. Like tennis is one of the sports that have equal pay for both men and women. I'd say that's mainly because they attract the same amount of revenue, a lot of spectators on both sides of the sport. Um, but other sports are just as good to promote, like women's basketball, softball. They're all growing. Women's soccer, that's also a big thing, especially the US team. They've been doing really well in like the Olympic Games, and in the past they've won a lot of medals. Um, yeah, probably one of those sports.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. I said, Monica, backhand or forehand?
Oh, like my favorite shot would be probably forehand. I love using my forehand, but both of them are just as important if you want to play an all-rounded game.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Goodman is asking, what are your plans for the next 10 years? We already discussed that, but if you want to just shortly repeat it for everyone.
Probably go to university, study as much as possible, and pursue a career in tennis.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Sanjari is asking if you could share your Instagram profile with us. Uh, you don't have to, but if you want, we can share it later in the comments. We'll see. We discuss it, right? We'll see. Ravshan Hasanov is asking, to what extent soccer is popular in the USA?
I'd say it's one of the more popular sports. A lot of people play soccer. It's in every high school, every preschool. Everybody's learning soccer. It's just one of those games that are easy to play. Like you just need a ball, and so the resources are minimal. So everybody can play it, and a lot of people do play it. At IMG, soccer is one of the biggest sports there. They have a lot of soccer teams for both women and men. So I'd say it's definitely one of the more popular sports in the US.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Uh, Kamron Satorov is asking, how come football players get paid more than firefighters?
Um,
Are we
I
talking about
guess
Uzbekistan or US?
I guess
Maybe
that
both.
depends on the person paying them. Um, yeah, usually if you're a top tier player in any sport, you'll be getting paid much more than regular workers, even if their jobs are important, like doctors or other people. But um, top tier, any sportsmen get a lot of pay.
You also have to work hard for that, right? Like,
Yes,
it's not just that you just
it's
get paid.
hours and hours of hard work.
Exactly. Uh, Shahnaza Monova is asking, would you recommend to study sports in the USA for graduates from Uzbekistan?
Yes, I definitely recommend going to the US for any sport because, as I said before, there's a great opportunity financially to help you out, and also just learning in the US, the standards are really high, and it's an integrated group. There's people from all around the world, so it doesn't matter where you're from, you'll always find your people there. Like, I know for a fact that at IMG, I've seen some people from Kazakhstan, I've seen some people from Japan, China, like everywhere. And when there's tournaments, everybody comes, doesn't matter where you're from. So it's a great place, like a melting pot of people. Everybody comes together there, and doesn't matter what you study, you'll always find your spot there.
Thank you. I see Monica is asking, which Grand Slam tournament do you prefer the most?
Um, Probably the French Open, because it's on clay and the points are longer and it's very entertaining to watch because you get to mix up more of the game. But any Grand Slam is great because they're all top notch tournaments.
I see. You mentioned that you speak many languages. What are the languages?
I speak Czech and English fluently. I learned Russian here while I was living here for a year and a half, just because it's really similar to Czech. I got the hang of it easier, and I've been learning French in school. But yeah, that's harder to speak.
Well, because we have a lot of language learners here. Some people are fluent in English, some are just learning, and it's always like the question that we always ask our speakers: give us some tips on how to learn a language, like anything like
For me,
helped you. Yeah.
learning a language, it's all about who you're surrounded by. So if you're surrounded by everybody who speaks English all the time, you'll definitely get the hang of the language more, like, quicker. Like, the reason I learned Russian almost in a year and a half, while I've been learning French for, let's say, 5, 6 years, and I still can't, like, speak it properly. Well, that's because here, living in Kazakhstan, everybody speaks Russian. You're always talking, you always have to try and speak, and partially also because I've been with my tennis team here, and they're local, and they speak Russian with each other, so I had to really push, and just doesn't matter how bad it sounds, you just gotta go for it, and eventually you just get the hang of it. So just keep speaking. That's the easiest and quickest way to learn it. The writing, reading, that'll come later in books when you're studying, but just speaking and knowing how to speak with people, communicate. If you can communicate, that's all that matters.
Great. And a question is coming. What about German language? Do you speak
Um,
German? Any
I don't
experience with it?
I don't speak German, but my grandpa, he speaks German fluently because it's really close to the Czech Republic, so a lot of people there speak German as well. But I haven't really learned German, no.
Um, Abdullah Kharkinov, he says that he was at our conversation club yesterday. It's great, and great that you join our virtual programs as well. And there's a question: which university you graduated? Can you tell us about
Um,
uh,
I haven't
again?
graduated yet. I'm still in high school, so I still have my senior year this year starting in the fall. So I'll be going for my last year of high school, and then I still don't know which university I'll be going to, but we'll see.
Ravshan Hassanov is asking, what do you need to be done to get scholarship in for sports achievements?
Well, you'd have to be like top ranked maybe in your sport. It doesn't matter which sport you are, but you'd also have to contact the college coaches. I know it might seem funny to just email them, but you just Google the school you want to go to, find the email of the head coach, and you tell them about yourself. Make it interesting. Say, I'm from here, here, and here. I do this sport. I've been doing it for this long, and what you do and why you want to go there. And they tend to respond quickly, and if they don't, just move on to the next school. But if you keep going and trying to contact them and then just eventually start a relationship with one of them, just talk and communicate with them, and well, they you either offer you partial scholarship depending on how well you do in your sports. So like every sport usually has their ranking, so you want to try and be as high as possible on that. But also some of the schools, it doesn't really matter what ranking there are because there's so many different schools, so many different options that you can find a spot anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Question from Dania Hasanova. How do you cope with challenges in tennis?
Um, well,
Are there
it's
any
always
challenges,
good.
maybe?
There's always challenges, like let's say I'm on a losing streak or something's not working. It's a very emotional sport, so you have to be very mentally focused. And the best way to deal with that, is to have like great people surrounding you. So like if your family is very supportive, if you have really good friends that are always there for you, if your coach is good, your coach will help you through the moments. But also just listen. For me, I listen to like um, videos like Mamba Mentality. That's one of the greatest ones for me. And how people train, listening to their stories and just pushing, keep going, kind of just get lost in the work of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Kamran Sattarov is saying that Stranger Things season 4 is out. I guess our summer will be stolen again. So it's going to be hard to spare time for exercises.
Yes, that's definitely something. Like you get distracted easily or just feeling very lazy. So you just gotta really push yourself to just get up or find someone who will get you to move.
Mhm. Are you in Kazakhstan right now? Abdullah is
Yes,
asking.
I'm in Almaty right now.
In a consulate, right? I see Monica is asking, what are the approximate expenses for sport like tennis?
So tennis is one of the, I'd say, more expensive sports just because you have to get the equipment. You need tennis rackets, bags, shoes, um, and traveling. That's more expensive. But
Mhm.
otherwise, like the practicing, if you just get any practice courts, you can also hit against a wall. You can just, and the balls. So like there's more expenses, but if you get past them, like if you have a community or just if you find just a club or get someone to sponsor you, back you up, then you can get through it. Like even when I lived in Africa, there's not that many like spaces, but it's also cheaper there because of the standards kind of and economic situations there. So um, you always have like somewhere to go. You can always
Mhm.
find a way to practice.
Yeah. And do you need a partner to practice? You said you can hit the wall, right? But it's not like, can you
Yeah,
become a good sportsman just having a wall?
usually you'd want to have someone to hit with, but it doesn't really matter who. If you have someone to toss you the ball and then you can just hit it, or if you do hit it against the wall, like a lot of great players, like Cara Black, for example, she was from Zimbabwe. She hit like 100 volleys against the wall in 1 minute. So just practicing those skills against the wall, just constantly hitting it, like the wall doesn't miss. So it's you got to eventually practice with people and mix it up, do different styles of practice, but that's definitely one way you can practice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. I see Monica is asking, do you pay much attention to your mental strength?
Yes, that's one of the most important parts of the game. It's not only about how you play like the strokes, but it's like how you put it all together in your head. So what do you do if you're losing? Like how do you get back up and just keep fighting and going through it? So at IMG we have a mental trainer, but also you can just talk with people. That works for me the best. Just talking through my problems with somebody, or just really focusing on myself internally and just telling myself what to do. Like be your own coach in your head. That's the best way to look at it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And a question from Abdullah: how many years have you been playing tennis?
So I've been playing since I was 5 and now I'm 17. So it's been a while.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And Shahna Zamanova is asking, have you ever tried to have a speech on TED? And if yes, share the link, please. If no, tell us if you want to say something to the world. I think that's a
Um,
good question for to conclude our chit chat.
well, I haven't done a TED talk, but I'd definitely be interested in saying something to the world, sharing our backgrounds, knowledge, and love for anything, like my passion for sport. It's always great to talk with other people.
Hmm. So, what would be the something that you want to share with people? Like any anything that
I'd
you want to.
definitely like to talk about like all the cultures and the experiences I've had living in South Africa, Zimbabwe. Like it's all been really nice. It's a privilege to be able to travel this much and see the world at such a young age. It just opens your mind more. And I feel that sometimes the people that don't have the opportunity to travel, they don't have the um, they don't have the resources to travel and have just the internet for information. But it's so much nicer and better to just experience it for yourself and learn from it, so you can make your own opinions on everything. So yeah, that's definitely something I'd like to talk about.
This is cool. Thank you. And Kamran Satarov is asking, are we allowed to ask off-topic questions? Of course you are. Uh, what's the traditional food of the USA? And when I asked my roommate James from Kentucky, he couldn't answer that.
So um, I've only been there for a year and a half, but I don't think there is a traditional food in the US just because there's so many different people and so many people have come from foreign countries and everybody just makes their own home there. So obviously there's pizza and burgers, but that's like everywhere. So there's a little bit of everything. I think that has its own sparkle there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. We have a great question from Abdulazim Abdul Qadir. Do you think the ones who are engaged in sports perform better in education? We would appreciate if you could share your own experience. Thank you, Victoria, for taking the time to answer our questions.
So for me, it depends on the person. Like I know a lot of my friends that don't do as much sport as me are more focused on their schoolwork. Well, if you're into schoolwork and you enjoy studying and you enjoy spending hours looking through books and reading and really going through the research process, well, then you'd probably have better results just because you have more time to study. So for me, it's always been a priority school and then tennis. Even though tennis is really important to me, school's always been first. So the quicker I could do my school and the better results I could get. And I've always tried to get straight A's in my schoolwork. It's always been like just not for anybody else, but for myself, just to feel good about myself. I like getting the best I can. So I think tennis has, or just sports in general, has made me a stronger character. So I just go through it. And like sometimes I go for tournaments and it's 3 weeks at a time. So I'd be gone from school 3 weeks and then I'd come back and I have to catch up all those 3 weeks of school. So just having the endurance kind of and mental strength to just sit down for the weekend and say, today I'm studying, and just study like a whole day of math and then say, okay, next we're doing the next subject. So I think sports has really helped me in a sense to just develop my character and just keep going because there's setbacks and limits in everything, but sports kind of just makes you push through and keep going.
Wow, thank you. Um, okay, I think we're running out of time. And I want to thank you, Victoria, so much for this interesting conversation and all the thoughtful answers that you gave to us. That was wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. This has been a great experience for me as well. And just talking with people abroad, it's just been great.
Yeah, let us know if you come to Uzbekistan. We'll be happy to host you in the American Center Tashkent for an in-person program.
Definitely, we'll do that.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for great questions. See you next Friday. Bye-bye.
Bye.